This is Binghamton Now on News Radio 1290 WNBF Binghamton and WNBF.com.
Bob Joseph. I love the news in the morning. It's always something. Binghamton Now is underway. WNBF. And greetings. Sorry, I almost didn't make it in on time because I was watching the news in downtown Binghamton. You never know. There was yesterday something unexpected, then today something unexpected. And, I've only been at work now for about an hour and 30 minutes. So, anyway, we're off to a very interesting start here at News Radio, WNBF, WNBF.com. Be taking your phone calls at 607-772-1290. Here's a pro tip. If you're going to commit a crime, be prepared to be taken into custody. Sometimes more quickly than you might anticipate. A life of crime. That's no way to live. No way to live. Fortunately, we are a society that respects the law, and therefore those who are believed to have violated certain laws are likely to pay a certain price. So it works. That's how it works. Be careful out there. Be careful. And don't take something that doesn't belong to you. Even if you think, well, according to the video game, I can take whatever I want because, well, you see, the video game, we get away with that. Yeah, well, life's not a video game, so let's see what else is going on. Oh, the election is almost here. I know. I can't wait. 12 days until the best election ever. I was listening to some people who were being interviewed, and some reporter asked a guy, so will you support the results of this year's election? And basically, the answer was, yeah, if my candidate wins. So that shows you where we are as a nation. Yeah, I'm going to support the results of the election if my candidate wins. If not, I'm going to stage an insurrection because in my life I can't envision losing. Let's take a call. It's 9:13. Good morning. You're on the air. What's your first name? Where are you calling from?
Gary from the West Side. Doesn't politics want to make you bang your head against the wall, Bob?
Kinda.
It really does.
Kinda.
You know, I can't talk politics today. What I would like to talk about are forever chemicals. So, I mean, this is the new thing that's going around, right? The forever chemicals. What are forever chemicals? Well, they were on Teflon. Everybody knows Teflon for their frying pans. But another place where there's forever chemicals are on your rain jackets, like Gore-Tex and stuff like that, right? And when it rains, rain comes down on it, and these chemicals actually come off your raincoat, go into the groundwater, and thus there's the possibility that we might be consuming them. So I there was a Press Connects. It's actually something like data.pressconnects.com. And you can search various things. And one of the things that you can search is how has your utilities done with the water in your area. You know, they did a test and they wanted to see if there's PFAS, P-F-A-S, in the water. And Binghamton, actually, there are. And there's, I think it's PFOS and PFOA. Are the two forever chemicals that they found, and they're over the EPA limit. And, it's kind of disturbing. So, I mean, Bob, I drink Binghamton water every day. Every single day I drink Binghamton water. And it's not a good thing that now I know that there's probably, unquestionably, forever chemicals in my body. And what it does to me, they say it could cause cancer and diseases and stuff like this. And, but I just want people aware that, in your city of Binghamton drinking water, there are forever chemicals.
Well, aren't there forever chemicals in everybody's water?
No, actually, I'm not at the website anymore, but most of the municipalities in the country do not have.
I'm talking about New York State. So you're in Broome County. So you say Binghamton is above the federal guidelines.
Yes.
What about Vestal? What about Endicott, Johnson City?
So, okay. Like I said, I wasn't there. I could go back online here and just see real quickly.
Thanks. Because now I'm worried.
Well, just another thing to be worried about, right? So,
and now, what about quarter pounders with cheese?
Johnson City Waterworks has unregulated PFAS detected. Vestal, unregulated PFAS. And Susquehanna, none. No PFAS. Tioga Downs, no PFAS. So those are the...
Well, what about Endicott? Check Endicott.
Let's go to page 2. See if
Endicott must have some. Endicott doesn't want to be left in the dust.
I don't see Endicott on here.
Maybe they got delisted.
Maybe it's a different type of municipality. That I don't know. Maybe they didn't get their water tested, which I find highly unlikely.
I don't know. One way to not be on the list.
That one. Yeah, that's the problem to avoid.
But the bottom line is, what does it all really mean? What I have said right from the beginning, and I can't remember if it was Hoosick Falls in New York State several years ago, I think became the first major situation in New York State with a municipal water system that tested high for these forever chemicals. Okay, it's 2016. I had to look it up. So that was 8 years ago. And my point about that, as soon as that was announced on the news, I said to someone, well, all they have to do is test every public and private water system in New York State, and they're probably going to find them. But the problem is they don't want to do much testing, because once you've tested for forever chemicals and then you put it on the record, then in theory you're liable. And one of the first things that pops up when I did a search was for the fabulous law firm Whites and Luxembourg, because they have a special section on their website, Hoosick Falls, New York water contamination. The water depended upon by the people of Hoosick Falls for drinking and cooking is contaminated with something called PFOA, which I believe is similar to PFAS, perfluorooctanoic acid. Speak to an attorney now. So I can click on this thing and they would say, well, Mr. Joseph, do you drink the water from Hoosick Falls? No, I drink the water from Binghamton. Oh, well, we have an attorney for that. Here, let me put Felicia on the horn, and she will take your case, because we are just looking into concerns about Binghamton's water. I mean, that's the bottom line with these cases, the PFAS and other so-called forever chemicals. Bottom line is, you test, and you're probably going to find them. I mean, test almost any, whether it's a water supply, soil. If you start testing for stuff, the odds are pretty good you're going to find some stuff. That's the major thing. That's why if you're
what about bottled water?
That too.
Yeah.
And not just in bottled water, which is very, to my understanding, very loosely regulated by state and federal authorities. Not only might you get some potentially dangerous chemicals, but in addition to that, you're going to get microplastics. That's why on your bottled water, there's an expiration date, not because the water goes bad, but after a year or two of keeping your bottled water exposed to that plastic, you're going to get a fair amount of microplastics, little things. And do you want microplastics in your body? I don't.
No, well, it's kind of the same thing, I believe. But what can be done, Bob? So, like,
nothing.
There's always,
nothing can be done because here's the thing. Yes, something can be done, but we don't have the money to do it. Yeah, we could clean up all the... I don't know. Stop drinking water?
No. Use reverse osmosis.
Okay, well then...
your water.
If you think...
And you can use carbon also, but it doesn't get it all out. But they say that reverse osmosis gets rid of PFAS in the water.
Okay, well then do it. Do it. And I won't be surprised that within the next 6 to 12 months, probably sooner, we'll start hearing commercials for those systems. Because wherever there's a problem, there's a way to make money.
That is true. And
I don't care what it is. No matter what problem you have, whether it's your health, whether it's pollution, whether it's anxiety, there's somebody out there who is ready to record a commercial and sell you something with the appropriate disclaimer that this product hasn't been proven to do a damn thing.
It hasn't been tested, but we're going to make claims that'll
implied. You know, they're very careful with how they word. If you listen to commercials or watch commercials on TV or see them online, the language employed is very, very specific. They typically know, because they hire attorneys before they put it out there, they know the type of wording to use that strongly implies if you buy this stuff and use it, that something good might happen. But they usually, again, if you pay very close attention to everything in the pitch, they usually don't promise anything really specific. They give you the strong impression that, yeah, why don't you buy some of this stuff and try it? Buy it and try it for 30 days or 90 days. And then if they're hoping...
You pay shipping.
Yeah. And no
shipping.
Risk.
We'll get your credit card.
No risk offer. Yeah, no risk offer. And if after 90 days you aren't satisfied, well, ask for a refund. Maybe you'll get it. Maybe you won't.
Send it back. No, you got to send it back, or so you got to pay shipping to get it back.
So it costs you $20 to send it back.
Right.
And the cost would have cost you $9 for the stuff just to get the sample pack. But hey, whatever. And the other thing is, for some of the stuff, I'm sure they're thinking, well, psychologically, people might actually feel better. Even if it's essentially nothing, people might think they feel better since they started using this over the last 2 or 3 months. So it's like, actually the program does sound better since I started taking 2 of those every day. When in fact, it's just a placebo that contains no active ingredient, but people are under the impression that, Radio Plus pills somehow make a bad show better. And after 3 months, it's like, it's still kind of bad, but I don't feel it's as bad as it was in late October. So
give me them damn pills again. Hey, I got to say kudos to Dave yesterday. He came up with a good joke at the end of his conversation. We won't go into it, but I thought it was funny. But yeah, you did too.
Well,
I hate to be in your position, Bob, because you can't laugh at stuff that might be, a little controversial, right? Because then your boss will be like, Bob, I need to see you.
Well, that's the thing. I heard it. The most important thing about this job is not do anything.
You want to keep it.
Yeah, I want to keep the job.
Sure.
I want to make the most people happy with the understanding you can't please everybody all the time.
Correct.
I can pretty much guarantee that anybody who's listened to this program for longer than 5 minutes has at least some gripe about something I've said or done or something that I haven't said or haven't done. But that's human nature. And
sure it is.
Until... And seriously, until I'm replaced by AI, everybody has a legitimate gripe because I'm a live person. And I'm not going to, I guarantee you, I might strive for perfection, but I'll never attain it.
And not for nothing too, Bob, because I do this to you at times too. All right, so we were having a discussion yesterday, about what happens in the Middle East and who might be the best to handle the Middle East, right? Kamala or Donald, and you asked me, and I thought about it for a second, and I said like Donald Trump, but there's so many different scenarios that can go into that. There's so many different things that I just put my foot in my mouth by saying that, just because, there might be a situation where I wouldn't want Donald Trump to do that, right? But
the thing about Trump, and some people like this, and some people
I said I wasn't going political.
Yeah, well, that's okay. This is just very quickly. What I say about Trump is some people actually think it's great that he's a loose cannon, that he's unhinged. And I don't say that in this context as being bad. I'm saying basically unpredictable. And they think somehow having a president for the next 4 years who's unpredictable means that people like Putin and the leaders of other fine countries like Iraq and North Korea, and China, people who may not be our friends, that for some reason, if we have a president who has a reputation for being wild and crazy, I say that not in a mean way, wild and crazy and unpredictable, that somehow that's going to be good. I'm not sure that's good.
Yeah, right. I do agree. I do agree with that. I told you, Bob, I met somebody over the summer. They were from Denmark, and I asked them about what they thought about in American politics, and they said they were concerned about Trump because they were concerned because they don't know what he's going to do. They don't know what he's going to do, right? So he's unpredictable, right? So, the whole thing is that if war keeps progressing and you get to a point, well, what do you do now? I mean, do we drop the big one? Let's never drop the big one, right? That should be.
But see, that's the thing about Trump. I don't know that I'm confident that he wouldn't say, what the heck? I mean, remember,
I'm out of here in another couple of years.
Well,
anyway.
and that's
my
the thing.
life's over.
He has nothing after the next 4 years in the White House. He has nothing to look forward to. You think he would look forward to being a former president where he has nothing, no power over anyone, and people look at him and say, what a great former president. You gave us 8 years of unpredictability. Now we don't have to pay attention to you. I don't think he could tolerate it. So
I don't think he can either.
No, he needs more than anything, more than a job. He needs attention.
Boy, Howard Stern doesn't quit radio.
Right. Even though he's on some sort of satellite channel with very few listeners. That's the interesting thing. Stern still makes a princely sum with a teeny tiny audience. I mean, because
true.
Yeah. There are many people on the radio and many people on TV every day who have a far, far larger audience and far more impact on America, for better or worse, than Howard Stern, but he's the one making all the money. And there's a good reason for that. The people who run the satellite radio thing they run the numbers, and what they have determined up to this point is Howard Stern is responsible for a certain number of people continuing to be subscribers to that satellite service. So as as you do?
Yes, local music doesn't cut it for me. Right. I like all kinds of music, so that's why I listen.
I like all kinds of music, too. I just don't want to pay them.
And there's ways around. You can pay pretty cheap.
I know. Trust me, I know. But I don't even want to pay a penny. For me, it's just the principle.
Okay. Yeah, but even when you're driving down the road, Bob, it's great when you're out in the Catskills.
Oh, I know.
Adirondacks.
Oh, and I have friends who have that service in their vehicle, and so certainly I'm exposed to it on a fairly regular basis. And every once in a while I think, that would be nice to have if I'm driving around and don't necessarily want to hear all the news all the time, but,
Right. Hey, guess what, Bob? Donald Trump's going to be on Joe Rogan. That's what I heard, so that'd be a nice podcast to check out. Thanks for letting me talk.
Yeah, thank you,
Talk
Gary.
To you later.
It's 9:30, WNBF Binghamton. Yeah, I'll listen to that. If Trump is going to be interviewed by Joe Rogan, then Harris ought to be interviewed by him, too. She has nothing to fear. She has not. When it comes to interviewers, neither candidate, Trump and Harris, neither candidate, they have nothing to fear. Kamala Harris ought to be doing an interview today with Dan Bongino and Sean Hannity and Mark Levin and Tucker Carlson. She has nothing to fear. Look, we know the types of questions. We know the types of behavior that those guys would exhibit. That's baked in. She has more to gain than to lose by doing interviews with people who are her detractors. We already know what they think. So take them on. Answer their questions. And then same with Trump. He should be getting interviewed by Rachel Maddow and everybody at CNN and everybody at MSNBC. He has nothing to fear from unfriendly interviewers. Politicians can answer questions. And here we are, 12 days before the election, and neither one is willing to answer questions from people they know don't like them. It's 9:32. This is Bob Joseph on your side on WNBF. WNBF, WNBF.com, with more calls on this Thursday morning. Teresa from Binghamton's West Side. You're on the air.
Hi, Bob. How are you?
I am well. How are you?
I'm doing fine. I just wanted to share something, positive happening this weekend. The Madrigal Choir of Binghamton, who I've called and talked about before, is having a concert on Sunday at 4 o'clock at Trinity Memorial Church in Binghamton. And the title of the concert is Love Never Ends. It's titled that because there's a piece called Love Never Ends that Bruce Borton composed. And I think you know that he was the longtime conductor of the Madrigal Choir. And he sadly passed this past summer. So we are going to be honoring him by doing his piece and by doing a longer piece with orchestra called Lux Aeterna.
Are you the guest conductor?
I am the guest conductor, yes. And I was one of Bruce's former students. So it's going to be a special concert.
Well, it sounds great. So I see from the posting, it's 4 p.m. on Sunday, yes. Trinity Memorial Church at 44 Main Street.
Yes.
Near the Binghamton High School. It's basically across the street from Binghamton High School. Isn't it at the corner of Main and Oak?
It is. And there's lots of parking behind the church, too. So that's a good thing.
And tell me about John Eisenberg.
Oh, it's John's making his concert debut with us. I think he's played before for the group. But he's wonderful. We're so happy to have him. Our longtime accompanist is away. And, yeah. And then there's also Derek Lee Reagan is our special guest artist. He's a countertenor, which, if you're not sure what that is, it's a man who sings in a higher voice. It's
a voice higher than mine?
Oh, yes. Yes.
Oh, my.
It's
That's high.
It's a beautiful sound. Oh. He has performed all over the world. He has won Grammys for his recordings, and he has worked with some of the best conductors in the world. So it is pretty intimidating.
I see his photo on the website, on the homepage of the Madrigal Choir website.
He came 5 years ago, and he really enjoyed performing with us. And so when we asked him to come back, he was happy to come back.
Oh, well, that's great. And I appreciate your calling in to spread some good news. Love Never Ends. And again, Sunday afternoon at 4 at Trinity Memorial Church. And Teresa, thank you very much for letting our listeners know about it. I think now, of all times, now would be the perfect time, because sometimes I think we get distracted by other things, which is understandable. But still, having an opportunity, even for a short time on Sunday afternoon, to sort of take a break and enjoy some live music here in Binghamton, I think is a great thing. I think we all need it.
Yes, thank you, Bob. And the tickets are $20, but students can come for free. And you can also get your ticket right at the door there.
All right. And I see this is the 46th season for the Madrigal Choir.
Yeah.
Very, very nice. Teresa, thank you so much for calling. I appreciate it. I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful Sunday afternoon. So do you have a final rehearsal coming up?
We have 2 more rehearsals.
Oh.
Yep.
All right.
We're going to be prepared.
Okay, of course. That's one thing people may not take into account for whether it's live musical performances or local theater or whatever. A lot of work and planning and preparation goes into each of these events.
It sure does.
And we appreciate it. Teresa, thanks. Hope you have a great day.
Thank you, Bob.
941 WNBF. This is your community station. That's part of my personal commitment to serve the community, along with WNBF. We've had, as a radio station for nearly a century, a commitment to serving the community. And if I have anything to say about it, it won't stop. It will not stop if I have anything to say about it. Let's take a look at the forecast as we look ahead to an autumn weekend here in upstate America. Here's the forecast from the National Weather Service. Starting off mostly cloudy. It will gradually become sunny today, high 55. Tonight, there could be some patchy fog or patchy freezing fog. So if you're going to be out driving, especially early tomorrow morning, be prepared for patchy freezing fog, because that can cause tricky road conditions. Otherwise, tonight, mainly clear, low 32. Tomorrow, sunny, high 60. The weekend forecast, patchy sunny. Patchy sunny. Oh, my goodness. Partly sunny on Saturday, high 57. Sunny on Sunday, high 54. And right now in downtown Binghamton, it is 51. That is 11 Celsius. And the air quality today is very good, much better than the last few days. The air quality index right now in Binghamton is 21, AQI 21, so that's good. It's 9:43 at WNBF with our program Binghamton Now. Cover Binghamton and beyond. What's the deal? Tucker Carlson. There's a person. He warmed up the crowd at you-know-who's rally in Georgia with a dark metaphor. bashing Kamala Harris and declaring that Dad, as in you-know-who, that guy, Dad was coming home. I listened to it. I actually listened to a different talk show this morning, and because I wanted to figure out a way to make this show better. So I was listening to a different talk show that I have only heard a couple of times in the past. And so it's a good talk show, even though it's a two-person talk show. They work well together. So I was listening to their show, and even they were stunned by what Tucker Carlson said last night. Let me see. Tucker Carlson compared you-know-who to an angry dad spanking a bad little girl. Oh, my gosh. Seriously, Tucker Carlson, what? A weird rant. That's what they called it. Weird. It was weird. I'll have to find, I don't know if I can find that clip. I'll find the clip. I'm going to look for it on Twitter. It's one thing to talk about it, but it's one thing to talk about it. It's completely different to hear this weird rant from Tucker Carlson. So let's punch this up. Thank you, Twitter. Thank you, Elon Musk. If we could find this. If we could find this twisted little clip. Because it's not in my regular stack of stuff. All right, here's something. It's on Twitter, and apparently this is from that channel that covers everything Trump. And this apparently is at a place called Turning Point Action. Turning Point Action. So let's listen to this. It's just weird. Let's see what they found. This is about a minute. We'll see how much we can actually air. All right. Tucker Carlson. So, by the way, that's the first few seconds of this particular audio clip is the Trump supporters expressing their adulation for Tucker Carlson.
Yeah, that's right. Dad comes home.
Dad comes home.
And he's pissed. Dad is pissed. He's not vengeful. He loves his children. Disobedient as they may be, he loves them. Because they're his children. They live in his house. But he's very disappointed in their behavior. And he's going to have to let them know. He's going to have to get to your room right now and think about what you did. And when Dad gets home, you know what he says? You've been a bad girl. You've been a bad little girl, and you're getting a vigorous spanking right now.
All right. That's about as much as we can take for now. So, you've been a bad. Tucker Carlson. Well, you know. Helps to explain why he got fired by Fox News. He's one of the few people, I think, in the media who could get fired, even though he has the top show in the field. Right? It's 9:48. Sorry for the weirdness. Listening to WNBF 92.1 FM, 1290 AM, online at WNBF.com.
For many in our...
It's Thursday morning, and what What a great week this is, and more October surprises are going to be coming at you, so do not be alarmed. The October surprises are going to be extra surprising over the next 12 days. The surprises are only beginning. Check out our website, WNBF.com. We have some inspirational local reporting, including the latest on Binghamton's beautiful $25 million parking garage. I think it's the most beautiful parking garage ever built in Binghamton. Had a chance to inspect it personally and took some photos, and we also posted a video at WNBF.com. So if you want to see the beauty, how beautiful, how wonderful the parking garage can be, take a look at our website. As Mayor Cram had mentioned when he was here recently, the expectation is the parking garage should be able to open next month, at least the first level, so that's good. And of course, they still will have some other things to do with the upper level. So let's see, you've got the first level, second, third, fourth, and the rooftop. So anyway, took some pictures. They've got the looks like the pavement markings are in. Looks like the little devices where they'll put the gates are in. The gates aren't actually installed, but the mechanisms are in place. So, yeah, take a look at it. They have made a lot of progress over the last few months. As Mayor Cram had mentioned, they put that together quite fast. The exterior, I believe they said 508 pieces. Every piece had a place, and they trucked them in from Massachusetts and assembled those precast sections quite quickly last spring. And so now they've been doing some interior work with the electricity, the plumbing, and other operational systems. Get the gates and the ticketing, the automation, all that worked up, and hopefully in about a month or so, at least the first people will be parking there. About 500 spaces in that new parking ramp next to Boscov's. You can see what it looks like now at our website, WNBF.com. It's Thursday morning. We're live and local, Binghamton Now. I'm Bob Joseph on WNBF, 92.1 FM, 1290 AM, WNBF.com. We'll be taking calls shortly. First, though, we welcome back to the studio Carolyn Price. Good morning.
Good morning, Bob.
How are you?
Great.
You haven't been here in quite a while.
I know. It's been a while.
Yeah. Well,
glad to be here.
Welcome back to our scene. It's relatively the same as you left, and I think we made a few modest changes. See that right there?
The bright blue, yes.
Yeah. And a couple other things. I can't even tell you what that thing is right there that I'm pointing at, but they just put that in. Don't say anything, just see what I'm saying.
Yeah, some type of a camera, it looks like.
It's something.
Yes.
I can't talk
Technology.
about it. Yeah, not allowed to talk about it. So, gee, I hope I don't get in trouble for even that much. Wouldn't it be awful? It's like, yeah, Bob got in trouble for talking about something he's not. But look, it's there. Watching my every move. I don't know if it goes back to Washington or Russia. Oh, well, probably both. Anyway, Carolyn Price, thanks for being with us in the studio. You are, again, running for the Broome County Legislature for the 2nd District seat, which includes a very significant portion of eastern Broome County. Tell me about this district. I was just looking at the amount of the county that is now encompassed by the 2nd District?
Well, it's very large, and there have been some changes that I wanted to bring to people's attention. Start over first in the town of Sanford, which also includes the village of Deposit. And then coming west, you have also the whole town of Windsor. And then moving on to Kirkwood, there was a change there. Now there's mostly like the southern part of Kirkwood. It involves 2 election districts. And then it now includes 2 districts in the city of Binghamton on the south side. And I've been told by a county person that this district is approximately 52 miles.
It's amazing. You could fit a whole bunch of other legislative districts inside the 2nd District. When you look at some of the districts, say, in western Broome County and parts of the town of Union or Johnson City, those geographically are tiny compared to the area covered by the 2nd District.
I think population-wise, when you look at those legislative districts, then they're very similar, but you're absolutely right. Geographically, it's huge. I'm enthusiastic about it, Bob, because my background, I was raised rural, but I have spent a lot of time in urban areas, particularly the over 19 years I spent here in Binghamton, in the Binghamton City School District. So some of the needs of the people are very similar, and some are very different. But with that background, I'm really excited about the challenges.
Now let's talk about the current 2nd District Representative, Scott Baker, represents the 2nd District, and he has represented the 2nd District in its various configurations for a while. What are your thoughts about the incumbent legislator and why you think you would be a better person to represent the interest of this part of Broome County?
Well, first, I'm a believer that change can be a very good thing. And I think sometimes in talking just in general terms in politics, people stay in positions too long. People will remember when I became the supervisor in the town of Windsor, I said I will not serve more than 8 years. They were terms of 2 years, so I served 4 different terms. And I left at the end. I mean, things were good. I was very happy. A lot of people didn't want me to leave. But I have to be true to myself that I really believe in term limits throughout our political system. So I think it's an issue of time, but I think also the difference in the candidates is, number one, the amount of time we have to spend. I do not have a full-time job. I can make this my full-time job. And I think the other part is I've had so many experiences when I look at the committee structure of the legislature. Whatever committees I'm put on or asked to be on, I feel very comfortable with such a vast background in schools and in government that I can really be a help to people.
What are some of the biggest issues now in the district? It occurs to me that as a journalist based here in Binghamton, I am sure I spend more than 95% of my time focused on Binghamton, Johnson City, Endicott, Vestal, and and this general part of the county. I don't spend much time covering stories in eastern Broome County, occasionally. To be honest, I think the last time I covered a story out in the 2nd District may have been actually last December when I went to check on one of the wind turbines to see for myself up close what they look like and talk with the guy who's in charge of the installation. But, you know, I'm not really sure that I've covered, at least in person, anything else in the 2nd District in eastern Broome County since last December, maybe almost 10 months, maybe more than 10 months. So it just seems to me that a lot of the concerns of the people in this rural part of Broome County receive scant attention. I mean, fortunately, there is some local news coverage with weekly papers, but you don't hear much coverage on the radio or TV.
Well, and I will say, I'm glad you mentioned that, Bob. We have wonderful weekly papers. The Deposit Courier, the Windsor Standard, the Country Courier. We're really blessed because they do cover the news. But I've been talking with a lot of people throughout this district, and Windsor and Sanford have very similar needs. But one that has really surprised me is how much affordable housing is brought up. And then as a part of that, homelessness. And that may surprise some of your listeners that the rural areas now are dealing with homelessness. It might appear differently. It may be hidden more, where I know in the urban areas it's often under the bridges. In our areas, people are living in cars. And we need to address this. It's also come up in the Upstate Towns Association, which represents a lot of rural areas. So it's not just Windsor and Sanford. And Kirkwood, some of Kirkwood is very rural too. So this is new for us. And we need to find ways to help these people.
Well, and it seems to me, too, that because of just the way things are laid out in this part of the county, that trying to find appropriate solutions becomes more challenging. Certainly, there are big challenges here in Binghamton and the surrounding communities in western Broome County trying to deal with issues like homelessness and poverty and substance abuse. But sometimes, I think, because of the numbers and the concentration of the population, that it may be easier for certain programs or initiatives to reach those people compared to, say, in eastern Broome County, which is more sparsely populated.
Well, and I think one of our best resources in the town of Windsor are the people that run Human Development, which provides food to people. And I was really surprised when I recently talked to them that they're up to serving 1,500 people a month from that food pantry. They certainly know the people, but also, you know, Bob, when you have a problem, you reach out to people that have been successful in dealing with it. And I think we need to reach out to our urban people that have been dealing with this for a number of years. I saw last night there was a big rally in front of social services regarding the needs of homeless people. So people that have had a lot of good experience and success, the people in the rural area need to join with them to find what works and what doesn't work, and then tweak it to meet our people's needs.
So looking ahead, say for the next 3 or 4 years, what sort of specific things would you try to see tackled by the legislature if you become a new voice as a member of the Broome County Legislature starting in January?
Well, you know, I have a huge background in finance. And, of course, finance is huge for any legislative group to be on top of. And it's wonderful that their intent is to control our taxes, in some cases reduce them. But you also need to look at the impact on every municipality. So this year, the county taxes in the town of Windsor are up 4.9%. They're up 5% in the town of Sanford. Now, Kirkwoods are down, running between 1% and 2%, and also this part of the city of Binghamton that I would represent, and that's good. So we need to look at not only reducing the levy with the best intent, but what is the impact on every municipality. And I think I could be a big help there and would be happy to help them.
If people want more information about your campaign, how can they get that?
Carolyn Price for countylegislator.com.
Carolyn Price, thanks for joining us in the studio. I welcome you back. Hey, we have an open door policy here at this station, and what I do like about this program is we're able to discuss some issues in greater depth than many other forums because we don't have a strict time limit and you don't have to confine your answers to something that'll work, say, in a short sound bite. So I'm glad that we have this type of opportunity to help serve our community, our entire county of Broome, as well as our surrounding counties. So thanks for being with us.
Thank you very much, Bob.
It's 10:23. This is News Radio, WNBF, 607-772-1290. That's our number. If you would like to talk about Binghamton and beyond, we're here for you. 92.1 FM, 1290 AM, and streaming at WNBF.com.
Elizabeth.
10:26 Eastern, 9:26 Central, 8:26 Mountain, 7:26 Pacific. Expert timing. With Bob Joseph, let's take some calls. Hi, WNBF. Good morning. You're on the air. What's your first name? Where are you calling from? Hello, is the caller there? Well, you know, we've made steady progress in America over the last 50 years when it comes to social media and even cable news, but we certainly, for every step forward we've made with other types of technology, we've taken 35 steps backward with telephone technology. But, you know, that's okay. As somebody once said, who needs reliable phone service when we have TikTok? Morning, WNBF. You're on the air. What's your first name? Where are you calling from? Oh, well. Let's get back to WNBF.com. We mentioned the story about the great progress they've made with our new parking garage. It's great to see a parking garage without chunks of concrete falling. So hopefully this Water Street garage will last for a long, long time. Hopefully it lasts more than 52 years. I'll be monitoring. 52 years from now, I'll go back to the Water Street parking garage to take pictures and see how it's holding up. It's 1028 WNBF, WNBF.com. Let's take another call from a lucky listener. Hi, you're on the air. What's your first name? Where are you calling from?
WNBF.com. Take another from a lucky listener. Hi, you're on the air. What's your first name? Where are you calling from?
I like that guy. He sounds as though he knows what he's talking about. The other construction project that I covered on Wednesday, and we did a story at WNBF.com, the Washington Avenue Makeover Project, a massive reconstruction project in the heart of the business district. Yes, we call it the Avenue. And it should be wrapped up very soon. Drivers, pedestrians, and businesses, of course, have had to deal with detours and other challenges along Washington Avenue for more than 6 months. The $11 million project construction began in mid-April, and according to Village Mayor Nick Burlingame, work seems to be moving along quite well. He sent us a note, said it should be mostly completed by the scheduled date of November 14th. He said they're working on some final touches. The northernmost section of Washington Avenue will be completed first. So that's good news. And we did take, of course, more pictures. Oh, look, the lights. The lights are in place, so that's good news. You can see the pictures and the rest of the story at WNBF.com. 607-772-1290 is the Binghamton Now number. Hello, you're on the air. What's your first name? Where are you calling from?
I'm the roving correspondent on the west side today, Matt Ryan.
Yes, Mr. Ryan. And what do you observe? I was just over on the west side not too long ago. I didn't see anything out of place. What are you seeing?
I was surprised at how heavy the traffic is on Riverside Drive. It's always heavy in the morning, around before the people going to the hospital. But there was a lot of traffic around 10 o'clock going west. I don't know if something got rerouted or what, but anyway. So I would just like ask the listeners to, if they have time, I know a lot of them don't listen to anything else except certain channels, but Steve Ratner, who's very much like the Steve Kornacki of economics, he has all sorts of charts. And
didn't he used to be reporting for the New York Times?
Yeah.
Well,
and
Steve Ratner,
he does a great job. He does a great job, and if people would just look at that segment and they see how the different plans are rated, economic plans are rated for what, for the future, for our future, near future, and just how, he projects what would happen if Trump's plans went into effect and all the tariffs versus the vice president's plans that would not tax the people who already don't have anything, but would tax people over $400,000 only, and shows how, in fact, under Trump's plan, taxes would go up for all those people who are in the lowest stratums, and people, again, rich people would get more of a tax break. And then he talks about how the tariffs would affect the not only the U.S. economy, but the world economy. And it's a real eye-opener. I think it's kind of like another mini October surprise if people pay attention to it and really digest it.
I'm looking at one of the things. I didn't see him, but on MSNBC's website, it says he, by the way, for those who don't understand Steve Ratner, he's brilliant. I mean, he was the chief economics writer for the New York Times when he was only 27 years old, so he's brilliant when it comes to the economy, not just the U.S. economy, but the global economy. And the headline, according to MSNBC, according to Steve Ratner, Trump's mass deportation and trade war plans will tank the economy. That's what he says. Remember, that's not me talking with my bizarro economic theories. That's according to an expert.
Exactly, and I think
it will affect the GDP substantially.
This is my best friend, Ned.
From
Cooperstown. We were on the river yesterday.
Oh, you live in Cooperstown?
I live in Cooperstown, yes.
I love that. I love that Hall of Fame there.
I live about 3 blocks from it.
Oh, every Cooperstown is so cool. It's I usually only get there a couple times a year. I need to make a trip back. It's the Hall of Fame is nice, but that's not the only attribute of Cooperstown. You're fortunate to live there.
Oh, the outdoor beauty is spectacular. It's the headwater of the Susquehanna River.
Yeah, I know. And the Susquehanna River is one of America's best rivers, by the way.
It's one of the oldest. It is absolutely the oldest river in terms of its geology.
We were on the river yesterday with our kayaks for a few hours.
Down here.
Down here, yeah.
Where, down near the sewage treatment plant?
Well, right at the confluence of the rivers, we put in and we went down to an island that is adjacent to the Vestal Plaza.
Yeah.
Oh, I know. Yeah, I know that island. Of course, as both of you know, be careful when you're on the Susquehanna, because some people, not you people, but some people are oblivious to some of the hidden dangers and sometimes even obvious dangers. So when you're on the Susquehanna, make sure you know what you're doing and where you're going.
You're talking to my friend here is the biggest river rat that ever.
Well, that's why I prefaced my remarks by saying both of you, I'm sure, know exactly what spots either to avoid or at least to be leery of, and some people, I've seen some people, and anytime I see people out on one of our rivers here, whether it's Susquehanna or Shenango or any of the other area rivers, I'm always glad to see the activity. But every once in a while, I see some people who I perceive to be novices. Sometimes I'm thinking, like, should I get out of the car and say, hey, in case you don't know, just about a half mile down that way, there's something you better know about, just in case. So, as they say, it's like anything. If you're doing anything, make sure you do a little bit of research if you haven't done it before. But anyway, thank you for both the river talk and the talk about the economy. As far as Steve Ratner, I'm going to have to take a closer look at some of the things that he's been saying. Because I honestly, I haven't paid much attention, but you bring up some interesting points, and Steve Ratner seems to know his way around. I mean, you look at his entire career, not just in journalism, but his banking career and public service.
And part of the U.S. Treasury.
Exactly.
Yep.
That's what I'm saying. He's not just some talk show host in upstate New York. He's a person of consequence.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so I just asked your listeners, I know they don't go to much of stuff, but this guy, like you said, is very renowned, and I think it'll open a lot of eyes. That's why I think really, when you think about it, people who are undecided, they are now starting to pay real attention, and I think some of the things that have come out in the last week, and especially this kind of stuff, shows, like, if you don't want your economy to tank, if you don't, yes, we need, I've been talking for a long time, we need bipartisan border bill that really makes sure that everybody knows what the game is, everybody knows what we're doing there. But to kill immigration like the other guys talking about will destroy our economy. Yep.
All right, gentlemen, thank you for checking in. Always good to hear a call about the economy and about area rivers, including the famous and the glorious Susquehanna. It's 10:37 here at WNBF. Let's take another call. Hi, you're on the air. What's your first name? Where are you calling from?
Hi, it's Ron from Binghamton. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we've spoken to each other before on the radio.
Your voice is very familiar, Ron.
Yeah. I live on the west side.
Well, welcome to my world.
Yes, I feel like a first-time caller.
Sort of a first-time caller, but it's sort of like riding a bike. Once you get back on the bike, it's just like old times. Yeah.
I've been off the bike for just about a year, and I think almost as a public service, I want to mention unashamedly that the reason I've been out of commission is I have been suffering with a major depression it's lasted about a year, and took me that long to come out of it, and which I'm doing now. And I say, a lot of people hide from a diagnosis or saying that they're suffering with a mental illness, because depression is, in fact, a mental illness. And it's one that is greatly misunderstood. People sometimes think it's something you can snap out of, or you just don't have to have, But it's an illness. It would be analogous to diabetes. You wouldn't say to someone who had diabetes, why don't you just snap out of it? You don't need to do anything. Just snap out of it. And depression is that way. It is a largely chemical thing, which happens to 21 million Americans, about 9% or 8% of the population. So it's a very serious problem. I've lived through it. I didn't know if I would, as a matter of fact, live through this depression. That's how bad it gets. But I'm glad to be back. And a few of my friends have said, well, we know you will be on the real road of recovery, and you'll be, okay when we hear you talk to Bob Joseph. So you've been the standard that people have put out, saying, well, when we hear you on the radio, we'll know that you're well again. So I'm happy to be back talking to you.
And I'm happy to be able to have this conversation. I've been waiting patiently for this moment. Yeah, well, it's I am on the high road of recovery now, but I guess at some point, like we've talked in the past about CTE and problems with brain damage and so on. I expect, or I would like at some point to talk a little bit further about depression, because I've lived it, and it's very misunderstood, even to people who are close to you, who know you, who love you. It's a hard thing to understand, because a person with depression isn't walking around with a cast on their leg or bandages on their head, or something that points out to people, oh, wow, this person's in a rough spot. They're ill. Depression is not looked upon that way by many people. And consequently, one of the things that hurts even more for the depressed person is, being misunderstood all the time by people around you. So, but I wanted to bring that out because there may be listeners out there who are, suffer from depression, maybe don't even know it, think it's something that's happening to them that is kind of unexplainable. But if symptoms of depression are affecting you, well, like me, there are some wonderful people who helped me, medical people. So it is an illness from which you could get help and recover, because you don't want to live with it. It's a horrible thing to live with. Bob, I just wanted to mention I haven't been even listening to the show because, funny thing, you can't do the things that you normally do when you're depressed. And you'd say, well, why can't you listen to a radio show? It's like anything coming into your head is hurting you, and you're living in isolation. So I've been out of the mix in terms of what's been spoken about, particularly politically, with on the show. But I just have one thought that I want to get out, and maybe you've discussed it, and maybe some people want to respond. I realize now, I'm thinking, I know we're a constitutional republic. We're not a pure democracy. And that's why we have, as an example, the Electoral College. Well, at this point, I never thought I'd say this as a more conservative political creature, but I wish we elected our president directly and not through the Electoral College, because if we were electing directly, I don't think we'd have to deal with the menace of having Donald Trump possibly come back as president. So I never thought I'd be against the Electoral College, because many people say, well, that means all the big cities will elect the president. You've got Los Angeles, New York, Houston, Chicago. They'd be electing the president. Well, go ahead and let that happen. Let it be one person, one vote. Count them up, and
stay away from how this electoral college has been used to screw up our country for a number of years recently. So that's my thought. Wanted to get that out there. And also, it's nice to talk to you again.
It's great to talk to you. You're part of our extended family, and I am just very pleased, very moved that you have called us today. This means a lot to me, and I think it means a lot to our regular listeners.
Well, thanks, Bob. I'll be back.
Thank you, Ron. I hope you have a great day.
You too.
It's 10:46. We're live and local. I'm Bob Joseph on WNBF. Hi, Tom in Susquehanna. Bob. Good morning.
Good morning. Listen, I'm glad to hear that Ron is back, and keep up the good fight. And only thing I have to say is I disagree with him on that electoral college. I mean, if you don't, excuse me, if you don't have that, forget about it. What you're going to have is New York, Chicago, and L.A. And you saw how nice those cities are being run. I can't understand why people will go against the electoral college.
All right. Well, I will say this, as far as I can see, there's no danger of the electoral college ever going away. Certainly not in our lifetime. There's no way, no how.
No. So, I don't think it will. No. But there, it's like he said. We are a representative republic. Now, I voted for this guy down here called Rick Santorum, right? And when he got in there, he's supposed to represent me. And when he did it down here, he gets up there and he votes twice to impeach Trump. And I mean, that's not representing me or the people that put him in there.
But here's the thing about that. I think for Santorum in that case, it was probably, and I don't recall the comments he made at the time, so maybe I'm wrong, but I'm guessing maybe it was just a tough personal choice, even if he knew it would be popular among many of his constituents. Maybe personally he felt that had to be done.
Yeah, but you see, that's the point. You don't put your personal feelings above what you're supposed to represent, But here's the thing.
Now, and I really don't know at the time that he made his decision what the overall feeling of people in the Commonwealth was about that. I'd be willing to say that a lot of his constituents agreed as he did. Maybe not the majority. I don't know. It's one of those things where because issues and information are constantly in flux, so maybe he thought enough had changed to justify what he did.
Well, you notice he didn't run again.
Yeah, I know.
He got a lot of backlash.
Well, I think he knew what awaited him if he chose to run for re-election, and he didn't want to face the likelihood of losing.
Yes, definitely he knew that. And this is the first time I've ever, this is the first time I have voted early. I mean, got a, what do they call that, a mail-in ballot. And I mailed it in, and I put on the thing, the ballot said, every year I want them to send it to me. I don't know if they do it on local stuff. But let's just hope that the things go right, and we don't get another 2020 here where where it was a stolen election.
Well, I don't want any trouble. My basic premise, or what I want to happen is, okay, the voting continues through November 5th. A lot of people already have voted. Tens of millions of people have voted across the country before the election. Most people will vote on Election Day. So I want the votes to be counted accurately and completely, and then I want people, both sides, to accept the results and say we're going to have a smooth transfer of power. Joe Biden will leave office on January 20th. Some people will probably say good riddance. Others might say good luck. But either way, at noon on January 20th, this country will swear in a new president. And then I'm hoping that people will say, okay, let's try to move forward for the next 4 years.
Oh, yeah. Well, I like to vote on November 5th. I always did. Even when I was in the military, I never had a mail-in ballot. I wasn't that interested in politics then. But I'll tell you the truth. You got to go. People have got to get the mail-in ballots and start going early. It's a new way of running the country. Now, what about you? Did you vote yet, or you're going to go on November 5th?
I will go on November 5th. And my plan at the moment, although it might change, my plan at the moment is to show up, get out of my car at the polling place at about 8:58, because I want to be one of the last people to vote. I'm sure they'll appreciate that, but, well, they have to stay there anyway. They have to stay there anyway, so I'll get in line. If I carry through with my plan, get in line at 8:59, cast my ballot, and then go home and watch the election coverage.
Yeah. Why don't you do this with your cell phone, Bob, and just get on the line and do a report?
Well, I might. That's a good idea.
You know that?
I might do it.
You could call into the you could
do it live.
The station.
We do it live.
Do it live. Bob.
Hey,
do it live.
Tom, thank you for calling in. I hope you have a great day.
You too, Bobby. Take care, buddy. Bye-bye.
Thanks. It's a story from Susquehanna Country and Susquehanna County making the news on WNBF. We're joined now by a candidate for the United States Senate, Diane Sayre. Perhaps you've heard of the incumbent Democrat, Kirsten Gillibrand, or maybe you've heard of the Republican candidate, Michael Sapricone. But I'd say there is a good chance you have not heard of Diane Sayre, who is also running for the United States Senate here in New York with the upcoming election. And good morning, Diane Sayre. Welcome to WNBF.
Thank you, and you pronounced my name absolutely perfectly, so that's very good.
Well, I try. I always try to. I strive for at least excellence, if not perfection. Anyway,
that's good.
Tell our listeners who you are and the party that you're representing in this election. It's always great to have a guest who can convey some information that I would guess most of our listeners are unfamiliar with. Tell us a little bit about the party line you're running on, and also a little bit why you're running for the U.S. Senate.
Sure, and thanks very much. And frankly, it is an outrage that many people may not have heard of me because 4 years ago, Cuomo and the leaders of both parties got together. They put together this $100 million matching fund package, and then they said, we don't want frivolous candidates to get matching funds. Now, federal candidates for U.S. Senate and the House of Representatives don't get matching funds anyway, but they use that as the pretext, and the commission who set this up is paying themselves $18 million, by the way. The commission that set this up decided to triple the signature requirement. Now, prior to that, New York was already one of the most difficult states in the nation to get on the ballot. It was 15,000 ballot signatures in 6 weeks. For independent and minor party candidates who don't have millions of dollars and tons of television coverage, it is now 45,000 signatures. And now the second time in a row, I am the only person in the entire state who was able to do it. And you would think that would be all over the press, like, some guy doing triple backflips off a tightrope into a child-sized swimming pool. It's quite a big deal. And instead, they say, well, you may have met our threshold to demonstrate you're not a frivolous candidate, but you still can't be in the debates. And certain newspapers like the Rochester Democrat Chronicle don't even admit that I am on the ballot, which frankly is interfering in the elections.
Well, which I find is interesting because the Democrat and Chronicle is part of the world-famous Gannett chain, or as they refer to themselves, the USA Today Network, and part of their network includes here in Binghamton, such as what the Press and Sun Bulletin currently is. I mean, they have about a half dozen papers here in upstate New York, and it just seems strange to me that while they might acknowledge a Democratic incumbent and a Republican challenger, it seems strange to me that they're not going to acknowledge someone who's running on the LaRouche party line in New York. I just find that fascinating that they won't even acknowledge it.
Exactly. And my name is also not in the opinion polls. So my supporters have told me they get calls and they say, who are you voting for U.S. Senate? Oh, Diane Sayre. Oh, that's not a choice. You have to pick Gillibrand or Safaricom. Or do you want to say other? It's so rigged. And by the way, the LaRouche party, I'm against parties. I think George Washington was correct. But the state of New York doesn't allow you to just run unaffiliated, which is what I am. I'm not affiliated with either party. They say you must create an independent body for your campaign. And last year, they also made it illegal to use the word independent, national, empire state, and a bunch of other things to describe your independent body.
That's all why we love New York.
Right,
by the way,
exactly.
I was born in New York, and I intend to stay here, but I have to admit whether it's election laws or some other things in New York State, I have to concede. Sometimes I'm a little puzzled by the way things are, except we'll just say that the people in charge, I think, like being in charge, and they want to kind of do everything they can to retain their power. Let's talk a little bit about some specific issues. What do you think? In your view, since you are a candidate, even if many voters haven't heard of you, and here we are only 12 days before Election Day, what do you think are the major issues that people who are voting for this U.S. Senate seat should consider over the next several days?
Well, I would say since the Senate is responsible greatly for foreign policy treaties, and of course both houses ratify the budget and so on, you should be very concerned about foreign policy since we are really on the cusp of possibly a nuclear war, and whether that will come to us through Netanyahu going crazy and launching strikes on Iran, or whether it will come because someone decides that they're going to give Zelensky long-range missiles, which can only be guided by NATO nuclear-powered countries to strike deep within Russia. We are very close to that, and there's really no need for it. The driver of this is the economic collapse, which also is not being admitted. And as back on this party question, so I gave the name LaRouche because I worked with him for 35 years. He passed away in 2019, but he was the leading economist on the planet. And LaRouche warned in 1971 that if Nixon ended up decoupling the dollar from the gold reserve system, that this would lead to fascism and perpetual war. That it would be the end of the Bretton Woods system, would be the end of stability, it would be the end of the dollar meaning something. And it's not merely pegging it to gold, but think about the economy we had up until 1960. I only learned recently that New York was the number one manufacturing state in the United States for 120 years, from 1840 to 1960. And that's incredible, but you can reflect on it. It was really powered by the Erie Canal and the fact that we had all of these major manufacturing and industrial powerhouses, Syracuse being sort of the center, but Buffalo, Rochester, Rome, New York, this was an incredibly productive state. And when you took that down, think about now New York has 3 of the top 10 cities in the country for child poverty.
And by the way, the child poverty rate here in Binghamton is astonishing. It's for Binghamton and some of our nearby communities, the poverty rate in general and the child poverty rate is very disturbing. It's gotten worse over the last 10 or 20 years, and to a large extent because of the loss of our manufacturing infrastructure. We're talking with Diane Sara, candidate for U.S. Senate, and I see on your website you also want to see steps taken that would address the matter of inflation, stop inflation, yes, and restore the middle class. And I know virtually everybody who's listening would agree with that, regardless of their party affiliation, whether they're Republican, Democrat, or unaffiliated. They all agree we've been through a lot over the last 3 or 4 years in terms of inflation, and to a large extent, let's say virtually all of our listeners who like to think of themselves as part of the middle class feel that they're under constant fire.
Right. And all the candidates promise to do something about it, but do they know how to do it? We've been hearing, well, the way you stop inflation is you do, first we had the quantitative easing because we had to bail out all the speculators. That, of course, created huge amounts of money worth nothing. So then they said, well, let's raise the interest rates and we'll have quantitative tightening. Well, guess what? If you raise the interest rates and you're paying 29% interest on your credit card and you can't buy an automobile or a house, that also is inflationary. And my point, and LaRouche as a physical economist, is that you don't solve this by playing with money. That has nothing to do with it. Money has no intrinsic value. You must increase your productivity. The way you increase the power of the dollar is that it is backed by robust manufacturing, solid infrastructure, knowledge that our transportation grid is fail tight, that you're not going to have a bridge collapse in the middle of a, major through highway or a port where we decide we can't spend, $3 million like that bridge that collapsed in Baltimore because they didn't build the proper buffers to save a nickel relatively. We have really gone insane. And it really was a shift in the 60s where you say that there's some money has some intrinsic value. You measure the worth of people by how good they are at ripping off someone else, and you don't actually appreciate those things that contribute to a shared mission and seeing the standard of living of everyone improve. And if you took that approach, the purchasing power of the dollar would increase dramatically.
Speaking with Diane Sara, who's running for the U.S. Senate, one of the other points that is highlighted on your campaign website is uphold the Constitution. And I know some of our listeners probably would say, yes, I agree. We have some people who feel very strongly that the U.S. Constitution has not been appropriately respected in recent years. Just tell us briefly what your position is and what you think would be appropriate going forward in terms of upholding and respecting the United States Constitution.
Well, take the elections. We are supposed to have a representative government. We are supposed to have the idea one man, one vote, which is fairly counted. If you are doing things like, one, keeping people off the ballot who are qualified candidates, or keeping them off the ballot through lawfare, the fact that Donald Trump is under 91 indictments is absurd. Everyone knows that were he not running for president, there would not be 91 indictments for things like fudging his figures on his income for loans. Everybody in business, there is nothing unusual or of criminal intent in particular about that. And I have to say, I didn't appreciate the way Cuomo was driven out of office. I vehemently disagree with some of his policies, but let us vote. you realize they never brought him up on any charges. First, it was the nursing home thing, which was catastrophic, but they dropped that to move to Me Too, create a big scandal, and then make him resign. The people should have a voice. The people are being sort of shunned and pushed out of politics. And then the people who make a lot of money, the big financiers, can come in and say, well, we know better. We're going to tell you who you should be voting for. So we do have a complete weaponization of the FBI, the Department of Justice, the CIA. People are scared to speak their mind. They're censored on social media. And I think this is one of the reasons, frankly, why we are so close to nuclear war, because somehow the American people don't want the war, but you have this incredible sense of powerlessness that you can't get your representative to reflect what you want them to do.
Diane Sayre, running for the U.S. Senate, one of 3 candidates. If people want to know more about your campaign and your positions on issues, what can they do?
They should visit my website, which is Sayre, S-A-R-E, for Senate.com, and 4 is spelled out. So it's S like Sunday, S-A-R-E-F-O-R, Senate.com. Please visit the website. Also, we're having a major event Saturday in New York City with a lot of former military professionals, Jimmy Dore and others, on this question of peace versus war, and that's on my website.
Diane Sayre, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
And Diane Sayre is one of 3 candidates. The incumbent Democrat is Kirsten Gillibrand. The Republican candidate is Michael Sapercone. And they are certainly welcome to come on this program at any time before the election. We're fair here at Binghamton Now. I'm Bob Joseph. It's Thursday morning. We'll be taking phone calls coming up in a few minutes. 92.1 FM, 1290 AM, streaming at WNBF.com. It's a Thursday morning, and it won't be long before it is Veterans Day, and there will be a very special concert coming up at the Oakdale Commons in Johnson City on the evening of Veterans Day this year. Presented by the Southern Tier Concert Band. We're joined now in the studio by conductor Robin Linneberry. Welcome back to WNBF.
Thanks so much for having me in today.
So, tell us about the upcoming concert. It should be a very special evening for people here in the Binghamton area, and it's just around the corner, just a few weeks away.
It is. Something for everyone, really, at this one. We'll end with the important part, and that's the patriotic part, and we have a special feature for our veterans. So veterans of all arms of the armed forces will have a moment in the spotlight, well-deserved and long overdue, and we'll play themes from their branch of the service, and we'll invite people to applaud for them and recognize them appropriately. But prior to that, we have music from, Percy Granger, Gustav Holst, Benjamin Britten, a whole variety of top-shelf world-class composers that are not as often heard these days by concert band formats in the United States. We hear a lot of orchestra, we hear a lot of radio, but our good concert band tradition is kind of hidden from the public view a bit, I guess. If people don't go to an armed forces service band concert or a college band concert, and in our case, we do have one of the finest bands in the Northeast, all made of volunteers, people from the age of 20 to, I don't know, maybe 85 or so.
And you have dozens. I'm looking at the musicians on the website. There are so many people who are part of the Southern Tier Concert Band.
I think we have around 65 on the roster. Again, all volunteers. In fact, we pay dues just so that we can keep our liability insurance updated so that we can perform in public. But from young to old, these are people who are, a lot of retired and currently working music teachers, but as well people who just love music and represent such a wide variety of other careers, from local BU college professors to a funeral director and a patent attorney and a criminal psychologist, and you name it. We have all careers and all loves of music represented in the room. We hope we can share this with people.
It's a great cross-section of the community. I don't know everybody, but I recognize more than a few names, so it's a good bunch of people and all backgrounds, all ages. And it's nice that they have this common interest and this real love for music, not just for themselves to perform, but also to share their gift with our community.
Oh, yeah. And in fact, they love it. We all love it so much that people drive from as far as Sydney and Bainbridge and Afton, on the other end from Horseheads and Troy, Pennsylvania, to rehearse Monday evenings at Maine Endwell High School. Long drive, big commitment for everybody, but the love of music drives all that. And I see you're looking at the new website. We're not quite done with it, but it's.
I was going to say it looks pretty good, but for some reason it didn't look like it was fully populated. And I wasn't going to ask on the air, is this brand new, or are there just some things that you didn't get around to? But it looks good. The basic outline of the website, it looks great.
Yeah, it looks so good, and we are populating it, and it'll be further along every time you look at it. So we'll invite people to go to southerntierconcertband.org and see what the band is all about. And remember that all of our concerts are free, and we just love to share music with the public.
If people have a pretty good level of musical proficiency and would be interested possibly in joining the Southern Tier Concert Band, how can they do that?
Well, that's a good question. We definitely have a membership process in place because, of course, we want to keep it the best possible group for the public listening, but as well as for the integrity of the people who volunteer all their time to play. So there's a process in place, and there has to be an opening, and we go through section leaders and some degree of resume activity and auditions as well when necessary. But we'll encourage you performing musicians who have kept your technical ability and your musical structure widely advanced throughout your lives to give us a thought and consider contacting us to join.
And there is a contact section on that new website.
Yes. Yeah.
So tell us again the information about the upcoming concert on Veterans Day. It'll be in the evening on Veterans Day at the Oakdale Commons.
Yes, Oakdale Commons at the ramp leading to the interior J.C. Penney entrance. And we're going to kick it off around 6:30 or so because we want to finish before the Oakdale Commons is closing at 8. So it'll be a little more than an hour of great music and certainly unforgettable. If you haven't heard a concert band in a while, we invite you to come to this free concert. Bring a neighbor, bring a friend, bring your family, bring your children and grandchildren who are considering band membership in the schools. It'll be really a great concert for us all.
Robin Linneberry with the Southern Tier Concert Band, thank you for the work you do, and a tip of the hat to all the members who make this possible.
Oh, thank you very, very much for having us in today.
It's 11:35. We're live and local at News Radio. WNBF 607-772-1290 is the number. I'm Bob Joseph. Go ahead. Make that call. You know you want to. Binghamton now. WNBF.com and stay connected using the free, it's really free, WNBF app. Here's the story from the New York Post website. The migrant crisis cost $150 billion last year, according to a report. This is the story written by Isabel Vincent at the New York Post website. The eye-watering financial cost of the migrant crisis hit $150 billion in 2023. She writes, it's causing devastating consequences for residents of hard-hit cities struggling to cope with the influx. Of that figure, calculated by the nonprofit group known as Federation for American Immigration Reform, of that figure, $67 billion came from the federal government, but most of the burden was shouldered by states and local governments. So think about that. Think about that. according to the New York Post, which is using the report from this group called Federation for American Immigration Reform. $150 billion. So just in case you were wondering how much the migrant crisis is costing, according to the New York Post. 11:41. Let's take more calls, shall we? Vinny from Binghamton, you're on the air.
Hey, good morning, Bob. Hey, listen. Before I begin, I just wanted to say to one of the callers, Ron, I heard you on here, man. Hey, all I got to say is welcome back. We're still the crazy house, but we're crazier now since we've got an election coming up.
Yeah, and it's all in good fun because we're all concerned for each other and for America. So even though, in my opinion, even though we may have differing views, I think in the end we still want the best for each other and for the country.
Well, that's why I'm saying, that's why I'm calling him out on this program about welcome back. And when I say crazy house, I mean that in a fun way. Because I remember, Ron, one of your words, you're the one who used to come on and say word of the day. And I think the last time you were on, you said decorum. So what you say, there's a lot of people listening, and I'm one of them, and I just want to say welcome back. Now, as a matter of fact, I got something else to say. Roger, Chokina, hey, listen, I heard you yesterday, and I went on and got some information about those immigrants that were flown into Luzerne County, actually the Scranton-Wilkes-Barre Airport. What that was, those were 4 flights that came in. Those were government flights carrying unaccompanied children. They landed in there. And Congressman Matt Cartwright told Newswatch 16 that they were carrying unaccompanied children. And he said, these are legitimate concerns, and we've been looking into it. We know that during the last 2 administrations, now this came out in 2021, so talking about Trump and Obama. These last 2 administrations, he goes, has been looking into it. We know that during the last 2 administrations, federal agencies have responded to overcrowding issues by relocating unaccompanied children into the custody of properly screened family members, host sponsors, and host sponsors and charitable institutions. And he said, it goes on. He goes, we know about this. And what happens is these kids are then taken to their parents, their relatives, or screened people that are going to host them. But this goes right back into this border bill. God, Bob, I swear I could sit on here and talk 8 hours. This is such an interesting bill and so defined. It has these points, and there's like 9 things under them. And like right now, that has to go with the beds. Overcrowding. The bipartisan, they wanted to increase the detention beds to a total of 50,000. So we need another 10,000 beds down there. Now, these kids could probably be put in those because what's happening is these are families coming over now. It's not just the husband or the wife or just the wife or just the husband. These are families. So now you got these kids. And what's happening is the system isn't working down there. So you got overcrowding. This person gets in. Okay, we'll do this. Catch and release. We got to get rid of that. There's so much there. And all we're talking about is the symptoms. All
right. By the way, that story from Channel 16 in Scranton, where Bill O'Reilly got his TV start, the guy who doesn't like to do it live, that story goes back to 2021. So it's not exactly a fresh story in case people were wondering, gee, how come we don't hear more about that, about the unaccompanied children that were flown in to the airport at Avoca, which, by the way, is right near Channel 16. So I guess that's why it was convenient for them to cover the story. But, the story goes back about 3 years, just in case people were wondering why they haven't heard more.
Yeah. And,
all right.
But once again, listen else what's interesting is in this bill. They wanted to establish at least 4 regional processing centers in the high-traffic sector along the southern border to better process arriving immigrants and asylum seekers. We've got a backup. We've got a big problem down there on the borders. And just like I heard Josh Riley talk about, he goes, it's Democrats and Republicans. You guys keep talking about this, but you don't want to try to solve it. And if you think about it, this is the same nonsense we went through when Obama tried getting the Affordable Care Act. Same thing. And right now in this country, you have, they tried getting rid of that. Oh, this is going to do that. And the Tea Party, they were big. Oh, we got to get rid, spitting on congressmen coming back after their break. And guess what? We got all these people now that are covered by insurance. Right now, we have a bunch of Trump supporters that are on Affordable Care Act. And a lot of them don't even know it. I ran into one a couple weeks ago. Didn't even know it. His wife. He had to ask his wife, are we? She goes, yeah, we're on it. You should have seen his face. He's just sitting there looking at me. I said, hey, man.
Yeah, well, some people just lack the needed information. Thank you. Let's take another call on the hotlines at 1146. Tom and Endwell, you're on the air.
Good morning, Bob. I'm glad that Vinny called and he was excited to really get
it's
that
great.
information.
It's always good to hear from Vinny.
Yeah, getting that information out about the kids. But he should do more digging because the HHS and the HRS, they're figuring there's roughly about 300,000 illegal immigrant children that they don't even know where they are. They're unaccounted for.
Well, then how do they know there are that many? How do they know the number if they don't know where they are? How did they get that number?
I had a conversation with you about 2.5 years ago when they were missing around 80,000 children.
Yeah, how did they?
Yeah, how did want to talk about it?
Well, now I'm asking, how did they get that number? 80,000 then, 300,000 now. So they have the number. How did they come up with that number?
They got the number when they were accounted for when they crossed the border. So they're taking the border number that they had.
So for all we know, they could be living in a nice situation. Okay, so in other words, ask any agency. They have trouble keeping track of people. It's not like everybody has one of those trackers implanted in their ear yet. I mean, that's coming. And thankfully, they can't track us that way. They'd like to. I mean, that's why they have the plate readers. That's why they're trying to track everything we do and every place we go. But they can't do it completely yet.
Right. They were questioning them during Congress. And the people that were supposed to be in charge of these children to know their whereabouts, where they put them, where they took them. They didn't have a clue.
Well, it's no surprise. It's no surprise. I have, when it comes to keeping track of people, how can you keep track of that many people?
Why? Then why would they let that many in?
Hey, because they want to come here. It's a great country. Everybody wants in. If you ask 7 billion people on the planet, most of them would say, if I had my choice, I'd live in the USA.
But that's not what I called for. So maybe Vinny, he tried to grease his wheels on that one to give a Democrat win. It's not very good for you, Vinny. The other thing is, Matt Ryan, that writer, that Steve guy, he's very hard left. He never writes anything good about the Republicans. But what I really want to call for is, the Democrats and the Republican, because, Matt and Vinny, they talk about our workforce down the road and how, we're lacking the workforce. And you even had Bill Clinton that said that, our birthing rate in America is way down. But the same party that really wants to run after that is also the same party that is championing abortion. They're also the same party that's championing that masculinity is bad. They're also the same party that's championing that men don't know if they're men or women, and women don't know if they're women or men. So I would like somebody to explain that to me. Maybe that's just a small portion of why our birthing is so low, on top of the expense of everything. You can't complain about our birthing being low when you're championing abortions and you're championing. You could be a man, woman, cat, dog,
Yeah, I don't know about that. You can be a cat and a dog. No, you can't, and nobody said you can. So, but, that's funny to say on the radio. But I certainly, you have to watch out to hear some people tell it. If you're a cat or a dog and you go to the wrong town, you're going to be in big trouble. But anyway, it's always a pleasure.
Thanks, Bob.
Yeah, take care. 11:51. You can't, trust me, kids, you can't be a cat, you can't be a dog. Yeah, I want to be a cat. You can't. But I want to be a cat. No. You're barking up the wrong trees. 11:51 WNBF. Let's take another call. Good morning. You're on the air. What's your first name? Where are you calling from?
Good morning there, Bob. Dave from Vestal. Welcome back, Ron, man. We missed him. Missed his input. I miss disagreeing with him. And boy, that electoral college thing, Bob, our forefathers, they were geniuses, Bob. They were way ahead of their time.
Yeah, I wouldn't go that far.
Yeah, well.
Yeah, they might have been the best the country had to offer at the time, but calling them geniuses by coming up with the electoral college, come on. But it must have been a big night of drinking when they came up with that.
Bob, last night I was watching The Five. I got to tell you quick here. I was watching The Five on Fox. You know that show. There's 5 of them on the panel there. And what came up, the topic was driving. And they were talking about how people today, a lot of people, especially older people, could not pass a driving test today if they were taken. Even if they had their license now, they couldn't.
What about Janine? What did she have to say?
So they went, that's the first one they went to. Judge, you think you could pass a road test? She goes, oh, yeah. She goes, as long as they didn't have a speed limit. I thought of you.
Oh, thank you.
I thought of you.
See, here's the thing, and I know a lot of people are sick and tired of me and Janine, and I get it. But ultimately what I think has to happen so we can finally put this matter to rest is for her to come here to Binghamton, to the studio, do an interview with me here in the studio, and then take some calls, and then we just go out and have a speedy. Get it? We have a speedy, and and maybe a Coke or a Diet Coke or whatever, and then because that's what it's all about. It's nothing bad about it. Everybody speeds.
Just to wish I thought of you immediately.
Yeah, no, thank you. I'll have to check to see they might have that archived. If they have it archived, I might play that clip on the program tomorrow. And maybe, see, here's the thing. She's a former prosecutor, former district attorney, and obviously she's had great success on the Fox News channel with her program and also with her contributions on the Five. So, yeah, obviously, it's not as though she encourages people to go out and speed. It just happened. So, and I think just just to wrap this up, put a ribbon on it, put a bow on it. And it's just like, okay, next time because she probably still goes up to Elmira sometimes to see family. So next time you're going to pass through, say on a Friday, why don't you stop in here like Friday at 11 and we'll talk and then take some calls. I think it'd be great fun.
It would. It would be good, Bob.
All right.
All right, pal.
Thanks. 11:54. See, these things have a strange way of working out. Let's take another call on the hotlines. Hi, you're on the air. What's your first name? Where are you calling from? Oh, sounds like a frying pan. Hi, you're on the air. What's your first name? Where are you calling from?
Hey, it's Roger from Chocoanut.
Hey, Roger. I am great. How are things?
Oh, getting there. I would just like to say to Vinny on the border that if the border was closed like it was in 2020 and you stayed in Mexico until you were vetted, we wouldn't have a problem of trying to find places to keep these people. But that is what it is. But the one thing I would like to say is to the people that have not voted yet, Republican, Democrat, Independent, whatever. When you vote, if you vote for Harris and Waltz, you're also voting to keep Mayorkas in his position for the next 4 years. So before you vote, think about that.
All right. That's good advice.
Thanks, Bob. Have a good day.
Thanks, Roger. And a great program, in my personal opinion. But as good as today's program was, tomorrow is going to be 20% better. Tune in from 9 to noon. I'm Bob Joseph. This is Binghamton Now on WNBF.
Embrace